All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest edition, the first episode, the inaugural episode, the launch date that you have all been waiting for, the rundown with me, myself, and Marcus, my good friend who I've been working with for years now. I'm so glad that we've finally got this show started. We've been talking about this forever. Today's the day. We are here, me and Marcus, doing the rundown. Marcus, how you feeling, bro?
I am super excited. This has been a long time coming. We were on this for a while, so we apologize for starting 9 minutes late. We had we did have some technical difficulties we had to figure out, but yeah, man, I'm pumped and I'm ready to get started. There's no better time than the present, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad to be here. It's super exciting. I've been thinking about it all day. Been getting ready for the show, bro. So let's lead off. Let's start into it. Sue Bird played in her last WNBA game the other night. I know you're a big WNBA fan, so I really wanted to ask you about this. Where do you think that Sue Bird ranks amongst the WNBA's greatest of all time?
That's a tough one. She's undeniably the greatest point guard the game has ever seen. And just real quick, Sue Bird retired. Breon January, who also plays for the Seattle Storm, she also retired, and Sylvia Fowles also retired this year. Her retirement started early because the Lynx didn't make the playoffs, but three phenomenal players, three players that I think are no doubt going to be in the Hall of Fame. Sue Bird's up there, man. It's tough. She's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. Is she the GOAT? Some people say she is. Some people say she's not. But she's up there like with the Lisa Leslies and the Cheryl Swoops and the Tamika Catchings of the world. She's up there with Candace Parker. I know Candace Parker's still playing. In fact, Candace Parker and the Sky play tonight at 8 o'clock, Game 5 of the semifinals. They play the Sun. The winner of that game goes on to play my Aces in the WNBA finals, which tips off on Sunday. But Sue Bird is phenomenal. I love her. She finished the playoffs, I think, with like 40-some-odd assists and 2 turnovers, which is unbelievable. Super efficient, all-time leader in assists. She's the GOAT. I mean, why not? She's the GOAT. She's definitely up there. She's fantastic. It's gonna be sad it's gonna be weird watching WNBA basketball, Seattle Storm basketball without Sue Bird, because she's absolutely a legend. Been playing the game for 21 years, won 4 championships, and just superb. Sue Bird is great. It's always sad to see a legend go, but it's always like one of those things you're happy for them, and it's nice to think back and remember how great they've been over such a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely. Sue Bird is someone that even if you don't necessarily watch the WNBA on a regular basis, if you have social media and you follow sports, you've heard of Sue Bird certainly every now and then. We also had another legend play in what is supposedly their last match this weekend on Friday night. Serena Williams, she played a great match, and she really played her heart out. She left it all on the court. Marcus, if you had to describe Serena Williams to those, I almost can't even put the greatness of her career into words.
Oh, yeah.
What do you have to say about the greatness of Serena Williams?
First of all, Serena Williams is the GOAT of GOATs. Like, I understand, whether you're an MJ or LeBron guy, that they're up there. You look at Wayne Gretzky, you look at Tiger Woods, you look at Tom Brady. I get that. Serena Williams is the GOAT of GOATs, in my opinion. She didn't just change the way that tennis is played, or that she didn't just change how tennis is viewed in the African-American community specifically, because this is a sport that she dominated that not many African-Americans play in, men or female, before she started. But, she's absolutely phenomenal. And it's not even close how phenomenal she is. She's done amazing things for the game of tennis. She's done amazing things on the court. She's done amazing things off the court. She's just spectacular. I mean, and even the word spectacular, as grandeur as it is, it still doesn't even begin to, like you said, just put into words just how great Serena Williams is. I watched the ending of her match in the second round. And even though she lost the set 6-1, there were 7 match points. That match, that third set almost was going to go on for an extra match within the set game within the set, because she just wouldn't stop fighting. And she went down swinging just as we all expected her to. She's great, and if she never steps back on the tennis court again, which it looks like she's not going to, as she is trying to evolve outside of tennis, as she puts it, She's the GOAT of GOATs, in my opinion. She absolutely deserves a spot on the sports Mount Rushmore. I don't care if you want to put Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds or who else on there. Serena Williams deserves a spot on the Mount Rushmore for GOAT of GOATs because she is just that. She is a GOAT of GOATs, for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would say you'd struggle to find an athlete of any gender in any sport that was this dominant for this long as Serena Williams was in her respective sport. I mean, this is up there with Wayne Gretzky's, Michael Jordan's, guys that are simply untouchable in terms of sports. And Serena Williams might be better than all of them. Serena Williams, what she did for tennis was unbelievable. She was unstoppable, the most dominant force in almost all of sports during her prime. And this match, what a way to go out. I mean, I believe it was over 3 hours long, and it was, even though she lost, it's such a respectable loss. And a situation that she almost shouldn't have been in to begin with. It took her to have to upset the second-ranked player in the world to get to this spot. And she played her heart out in this final match. I mean, seriously, it was back and forth for 3 hours of just brilliant tennis. She really gave it her all. And I read a stat, and I retweeted it on Twitter. And Serena Williams has beat a player in every single decade, or every single year starting in like 1960. Every single year, a player born in every single year. A player born in 1961, 1962, 1960. And that stat is already enough to qualify her as the greatest of all time in her sport. And it's literally a grain of salt compared to the greatness of her career. It is unbelievable what she has done for the sport of tennis, and even more than that.
And it's also like, just before we move on, like, people keep saying she's the greatest female tennis player. No. She's the greatest player to ever step foot on a tennis court. Male, female, whatever. It's Serena Williams, and then it's everybody else. And I know it's technically an upset on paper because Serena Williams was underranked because she only played 6 matches. But Serena Williams winning is not an upset. Serena Williams winning is a fact of life. Like, I get it. It's technically an upset because it's number 2 player in the world. But Serena Williams is absolutely phenomenal. And again, like I said with Sue Bird, it's going to be weird watching tennis without Serena Williams playing on the court or being involved in some way, because that's all we know is Serena Williams playing tennis. But she's amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, certainly. Also this weekend on Saturday, something that everybody was waiting on, college football is back. And this week 1 games were unbelievable. Super fun games. The Notre Dame game was fun. UF versus Utah, that was a good upset. Then you also had the brilliant LSU and FSU game, which was unbelievable. Marcus, what's your biggest takeaway from week 1 of college football?
Oh, there's so many. I watched the Jackson State game. That game was just a 3. The Jackson State absolutely thrashed FAMU in that game. That was a great game for Jackson State offensively and defensively. There were a lot of big games, obviously. Georgia just handling business against Oregon as we thought they would. Alabama doing the same in their game. The big takeaway for me, though, was in the Ohio State Notre Dame game. I know Ohio State won that game 21-10, but that game was a lot closer than I think anyone expected it to be. And I don't know if that's because Notre Dame is actually a force to be reckoned with this season, or if maybe we put a little bit too much stock into Ohio State. But that score was a lot closer, even though it was 21-10 at the end. I mean, obviously, Ohio State did score like a very late garbage time touchdown to kind of spread the score out a bit. But that game was a lot closer than a lot of people expected. Like, I even thought Ohio State was going to run right over Notre Dame, similar to the way we saw Alabama run over their opponent, and similar to the way we saw UGA run over Oregon. That game was a lot closer, and I don't know if that's because Ohio State maybe wasn't what we thought they were going to be, at least in week 1, or if that's because Notre Dame actually is a bit more than we may have expected. Here's the thing, though. Notre Dame still didn't win, and that's not a surprise. Notre Dame doesn't beat good football teams, especially on the road. So that's not the surprise, but the score being so close was the surprise. It'll be interesting to see as the season wanes forward and as we get closer to the college football playoff, as the season wanes on, just exactly what that means. If that score skews more so to the fact that Ohio State isn't going to be the dominant team that we thought they were going to be, or if that's more so that Notre Dame's going to be a lot better than we may have expected. But that game was a lot more shocking to me than really anything else, because no one in the country thought that the score was going to finish with an 11-point difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I thought Notre Dame they hung in there. They hung in there. But how bad has it gotten for Notre Dame that we're like, well, hey, good job, guys. You covered a 17-point spread. Good job. I mean, it's unbelievable how down bad Notre Dame has gotten, and they're overrated every single year. Notre Dame got up 10-7 in that game, and they wanted that to be the final score. They were hoping that the final score was going to be 10-7. They said, all right, we're done playing offense. We're done taking shots down the field. That's it. And it's over from that point on. Notre Dame's defense is good, and Notre Dame's defense is always going to be good. But their offense is completely incompetent. And it showed that they didn't have trust in them, because they stopped taking shots after they got a 3-point lead, and they expected to hold C.J. Stroud and Ohio State to 7 points for the entire game, which is just it was never going to happen. But my biggest takeaway is Anthony Richardson is electric. He is the most electric man in college football as of right now, and he's the Labor Day Heisman. He is the Labor Day Heisman. We have him every year. Yeah. He's the Labor Day Heisman this year, except I think he actually has the ability to carry that on throughout the rest of the year. There were some throws that he made that I was like, there's smoke coming out of the back of the ball. Now, he certainly needs to, he needs to be more of a refined product, certainly going into the NFL. But in college, to have the ability to run all over the field like that and just make that many plays with your legs as well as your arm, I mean, it's going to be unstoppable if he plays like this for the rest of the season. And Florida is going to be an extremely hard team to beat, even though they're in the SEC, and even though their schedule is certainly going to get tougher outside of Utah. My other biggest takeaway is the Pac-12 is done. The Pac-12 is freaking toast. This was week 1, and the Pac-12 is already done. They're already not even worth mentioning. Oregon looked like they didn't even belong in the field. Bo Nix looked horrible. Then you have Utah. They're 7th. Oh my gosh, they're going to be scary this year. No, they're not. They lose to unranked Florida week 1. The only the only Pac-12 team that looked decent was USC, and we're making a big deal out of them beating up on Rice. So as of every year, within the first 2-3 weeks of the season, we're like, okay, the Pac-12's out of it. So that was my biggest takeaway from week 1.
And on that vein, too, talk about the Pac-12, obviously the other big news from the college football this week was that the college football playoff is going to expand to 12 teams as soon as 2026. Obviously, they're going to try to maybe push it up, but that's probably not going to happen. We know how college football works. Here's the thing. If the Pac-12 sucks now, and there's only 4 teams in the college football playoff, how are the Pac-12 going to be able to get a team into the 12-team playoff? Like, we know we talk all the time about how phenomenally how wide the gap is between the SEC and everybody else, right? We already see 2 teams consistently get into the college football playoff. There's only 4 teams, right? At least 1 team into the ACC, at least 1 team from the Big Ten. We could see in the 12-team college football playoff a scenario where, like, we're getting 3 or 4 SEC teams because the SEC is just that good, and because there's so many great teams, the schedules are all tough, and it just kind of works that way. 1 or 2 teams from the Big Ten, 1 or 2 teams from the ACC. Even in a 12-team college football playoff, can we say definitively that we could see a team like Oregon or Utah or some other Pac-12 representative in the college football playoff? No, because week 1 comes around and they're getting absolutely thrashed by their opponents outside of the Pac-12. And Pac-12 teams those games are always so staggered. It's like the parity between the Pac-12 inside of it is crazy, but the parity from the Pac-12 to other Power 5 conferences, whether it's the ACC, the Big Ten, or the SEC, is just ridiculous. It's insane. Not to mention the fact that we're talking about a scenario where by the time we get to 2026, USC and UCLA are going to be in the Big Ten, which is going to make the Big Ten that much more stronger. Those schedules are going to be hold that much more weight. Like, the Pac-12 isn't just done for this season. The Pac-12 might be done forever. We may never see a Pac-12 team sniff anything close to a national championship in college football. Not in our lifetimes, anyway.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they're almost losing like Power 5 status. It's really just like they're out of it now.
Ridiculous.
They're done.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable what is going on in the Pac-12 right now. And you're right. They have teams that are the good teams that they have, better than bad teams that they have in there are leaving. They're on their way out. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. You are right. You make a good point there. One thing that has been an ongoing issue and an ongoing discussion that just seems to be never ending. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson wants Deshaun Watson money. He wants $230 million guaranteed. He's given them a Friday deadline right now. That's tomorrow, and there is no contract in place. The Ravens are saying, well, with these other deals that are happening, Deshaun Watson's the outlier because you look at Russell Wilson, he didn't get fully guaranteed money. Aaron Rodgers didn't get fully guaranteed money. Kyler Murray, who's more comparable to Lamar Jackson in age, didn't get fully guaranteed money. Marcus, I know you have strong opinions about Lamar Jackson. Should the Ravens offer Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract?
No, they should not offer Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract. That's not the norm. Quarterbacks don't get fully guaranteed money. NFL players in general usually don't get fully guaranteed money. The only players in America that get fully guaranteed money are baseball players. That's it. That's it. And last time I checked, Lamar Jackson doesn't play baseball. He plays football, right? Now, a couple weeks ago, I was of the mindset that Lamar Jackson, being the man that he is, he should hold up to his word. He should not step foot on a football field until he gets his money, because that's the kind of guy he is. But, and no one likes to hear this, but here's the fact of the matter. Lamar Jackson, the way that he plays football, his risk for injury is vastly higher than, say, a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers or even a Kyler Murray, because he uses his legs a lot more than anyone else in the NFL at the quarterback position. We just saw him miss half the season just about last season with an ankle injury. That's how he makes his money. Lamar Jackson makes his money with his legs, with those ankles. So here's the thing. We got two options here. Lamar Jackson can go the Kirk Cousins route, just hold out for more money, play on the tag, and maybe someone else somewhere down the line will give him that money, or he can take the Dak Prescott route, which is what I don't want to see happen to Lamar Jackson, which is he really gets hurt. Season-ending injury, the Ravens stink, and then the Ravens front office comes to their senses. Those are the two options. Lamar Jackson's a loyal guy. He plays for the team. He's already said he's not going to hold out. He's not going to hold in or anything like that. He doesn't want to be distracted. I respect all of that because we're living in a world where that's all they want to do. But Lamar Jackson's not going to get a fully guaranteed deal because no other quarterback in football except for Deshaun Watson has a fully guaranteed deal. And the only reason why Deshaun Watson's contract is fully guaranteed is because the Browns were extremely desperate to bring in a quarterback that could get them some type of relevance and competency over the next 4 to however many years. That's the only reason why Deshaun Watson's contract is fully guaranteed. With that being said, Lamar Jackson should not want a fully guaranteed contract. And whatever's on the table, he should sign it and sign it now, because there's no guarantee that he can get that money from Baltimore or better anywhere in the future, even if he does get tagged once or twice.
Yeah, I think this is an incredibly rough situation for the Ravens because it's hard because you have a franchise quarterback. Lamar Jackson is a franchise quarterback in the NFL, no question about it. However, like you said, based off his style of play, that's something that they need to take into account in terms of contract negotiations. Lamar Jackson's style of play doesn't lead to longevity in the NFL, and it doesn't lead to fully healthy seasons a lot of the time. And sometimes it leads to a shortened NFL lifespan. And when you're going to give a guy a long-term deal, can you really comfortably give him fully guaranteed money if he makes his money, like you said, off of running the football and off of putting himself and making himself vulnerable to taking big hits and getting injured? I don't think I'd be comfortable enough giving Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed contract. And I also like what you said about Deshaun Watson getting fully guaranteed money isn't the precedent in the NFL. It is not the new standard in the NFL. It was the Browns being extremely desperate, mouth-wateringly desperate to give Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed deal, despite all of the off the field question marks surrounding him, and despite all of the PR hits that they're going to take, they needed to give him that deal because the Browns are the most desperate franchise in the NFL for a franchise quarterback, because they haven't had one since me and you have been on Earth, Marcus. So
Yeah.
it is unbelievable, and they honestly haven't had one for the past since Bernie Kosar. I mean, they were desperate
It's been
for
a
a
long
franchise
time.
quarterback. It's been a long time, and they gave him this fully guaranteed deal. They might have jumped the gun on that, and I don't think that it's the new precedent in the NFL. I think that the Ravens would really be caving in if they gave Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed deal, and I think that Lamar Jackson eventually will come to his senses and will take a more reasonable deal. This reminds me a lot of the Dak Prescott situation. Dak Prescott wanted a ridiculous amount of money. He wanted a ridiculous amount of money from the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott simply, in terms of the landscape of the NFL, was not worth that amount of money in comparison to the other guys that were getting that deal. Then he gets a more reasonable contract, still a huge contract, still an extremely respectable contract, but a more reasonable one for the team and for him. And I think that's what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson here. Eventually, a settlement will be done. I don't think Lamar Jackson will ever play a snap in anytime soon in a place like Miami or anywhere other than a Baltimore Ravens jersey. I think a settlement will be done. I don't think it will be a fully guaranteed deal.
No, not at all.
All right, now we're going to get into buy or sell here. This new segment, I'm going to list off topics around the sports world. I'm going to ask you if you buy or sell them. Donovan Mitchell has been traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, huge move. Do you buy or sell Donovan Mitchell making the Cavs contenders in the Eastern Conference?
I buy, but I definitely hedge my bet just because I don't trust what they have at the three. I think if they had a reliable three, and I've said this a couple of times, I think if they had maybe Bogdanovich, we could talk about a situation where maybe the Cavs could make a push for the Eastern Conference Finals this year. This is definitely a second-round basketball team, though, with Donovan Mitchell for sure. So I'll buy it, but I'll hedge my bet on the lack of depth or really presence at all they have of a reliable wing.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy it right now because I don't think, like we've talked about earlier, I don't think that Donovan Mitchell going to the Cavs was a this-year deal. I think that was more of like, we're setting the team up, the Cavs are setting the team up to be contenders for the next 3, 4, or 5 years. This was not a win now move by the Cavs. It was a open the championship window now, but it's not a win now move. I still think Philly's better. I still think Milwaukee's better. I think even Brooklyn could beat them just based off their star power, but I don't know about that yet. But the Cavs still don't have experience, and I don't think that makes them contenders in the East. I could see them being a 4 seed, though. I could see them making it to the second round in the Eastern Conference. I don't see them as perennial contenders in the Eastern Conference, even after getting Donovan Mitchell. Now let's move back to the NFL. Earlier in the week, we found out that the Steelers have announced Mitchell Trubisky as the starting quarterback over rookie Kenny Pickett, who was standing out in the preseason. Do you buy or sell that Mitchell Trubisky will be the starter for Pittsburgh for all 17 games of this season?
Buy, because he's the better quarterback. He has NFL experience. He's been in the playoffs. He's won a playoff game. This is a team that if the defense clicks and if Mitchell Trubisky does what he was doing in Chicago, could maybe sneak into the playoffs somehow, some way with 9 wins. If things just go their way, they could sneak into the playoffs as 9, as a 6 or 7 seed. But that's only if Mitch Trubisky starts all 17. Mike Tomlin has always been very by the book. He's always been very patient with his quarterbacks. And look, he found a way to win with Mason Rudolph. He can absolutely win with Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky, I think, starts all 17. I'm buying that.
Yeah, I'm buying it as well. Listen, Mitchell Trubisky, he's the truth. And I honestly don't even know why they went out and drafted Kenny Pickett. I do think that Mitch Trubisky could be a long-term starter for Pittsburgh. I think he is good enough to keep them in the playoff conversation. And we all know that Mike Tomlin cares about winning games. He cares about his record, and he cares about winning games. He will never scrap a season just to let the rookie go in there and get some playing time. He will never, ever, ever do that. From week 1 to week 17, or week 18 now, he will never, ever do that. He will always put the team in the best possible situation to win football games. And they're going to be in playoff contention with Mitchell Trubisky as the starting quarterback. So give me Mitch Truthbisky to start all 17 this season. Now, listen, in a few minutes, Thursday Night Football kicks off against the Bills and the Rams. Right now, the majority of bettors, according to DraftKings, are taking the Bills to cover the 2.5-point spread as favorites. Are you buying or selling Bills to cover 2.5 points tonight?
Buy, and I'm one of the bettors that bet on the Bills to cover.
Okay.
So there's that too.
Right there.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll buy the Bills to cover 2.5. That's a field goal. I mean, last night on our show, on my show, when we talked on Twitter episode about with Germ about this, I said 27-24. That's 3 points. That covers the spread. I think so, absolutely. Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, there's not really much else to say. I'm one of the bettors that bought the 2.5 over. So yeah, I'll buy it.
Okay, yeah, I'm buying it as well because, like I said, like you just said, we gave our predictions for this game last night on the episode with Germ. I said 31-24. Bills win. The Rams have had too much going on this offseason for me to expect them to come out week 1 firing on all cylinders, much like they did last year. I don't expect them to do that. The Rams are still going to be a good team, but I actually think they might take more time than usual to hit their stride as opposed to coming out week 1. And I think the Bills are ready to play. Josh Allen looked spectacular in his preseason action. And I think that the Bills are ready to play. Last night I said, listen, less than 2 weeks ago, Aaron Donald was having roid rage on a football field and clobbering dudes and assaulting dudes over the head with a helmet, much like Myles Garrett did. And now that you have this weird situation with Matthew Stafford's elbow, I do not see the Rams coming out ready to play tonight. And I think the Bills are ready. I think that this might be their year. I think the Bills are going to come out firing on all cylinders. They are going to be impressive. So give me the Bills to cover the 2.5-point favorite spread. Oh, man, first episode in the books. Here we are, Marcus. The rundown with Payton and Marcus. It's real.
It's great because we started late and we have 3 minutes to spare. It's lovely.
Yes,
it's absolutely lovely. It's beautiful. But yeah, no, this is a blast. I enjoyed it. Tomorrow, Peyton and I will be posting our pick'ems. We'll post our week 1 pick'ems on Instagram, so you guys can see who we think are going to win each game for this week. Obviously, we just both have the Bills, so you guys will know that in advance. But we'll get our full slates out there for the Sunday game, and then obviously for the game on Monday with Broncos travel to Seattle for Russ's first game in a Broncos jersey and his first game back in Seattle. But yeah, this was great, dude. 3 minutes to spare starting late is what's impressive to me the most, though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I feel relaxed because I was very worried that we were going to run over time and I was going to have to be like, all right, Marcus, like, let's get going here. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And like, we were going to go and overrun this thing. But no, I think we kept it short. We kept it sweet. That was a goal. We only want this to be a 30-minute show. We want to cover as much of the major points as possible in 30 minutes. Give you guys some good segments, like such as a buy or sell segment. I'm sure even sometimes we'll talk about our pick'ems on the show.
Sure.
And whatnot. And we'll have more stuff coming up for you guys in the later weeks. But as for the first week of the rundown here with me and Marcus, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Enjoy some football.